What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Cashflow podcast. You are listening to episode number 11.
I say it all the time. My mentor has, saved me thousands and made us millions, right? Because if it wasn't for him, maybe I would still be still trying to renovate that single family house.
Welcome back to the Chasing Cashflow podcast. Thank you for tuning in. And if this is your first time listening to this podcast is all about interviewing successful real estate investors and entrepreneurs as they share how they started their business and scaled. Whether you have no properties or 100 properties, listeners can expect to learn actionable steps to grow and sustain their own real estate portfolio. If you haven't already, please make sure to leave a review on this podcast on whatever app you are listening to. It will help tremendously for the Chasing Cashflow podcast. Also, if you haven't followed us on Instagram or YouTube, please make sure to do that at Chasing Cashflow Podcast, where you'll get content all about real estate investing. Today, we're going to be interviewing a real estate investor whose goal is to reach 1,000 units, which I think is a crazy goal, but very attainable after speaking to him and seeing how much he's done so far. Today's guest goes into a pretty cool topic as far as 4 steps to accelerate financial freedom, which I think is huge because, people getting into real estate now, they're always asking, how do you reach financial freedom the quickest way possible? So he kind of has a 4-step process as far as how to do that, which includes cash, partner, market, and mentor. So tune in for him to go more into depth into that. Also, a huge point to be made about our guest today is that he told everyone that he was in real estate investing, which helped him tremendously. He found his partner, he found a mentor, and he's found a ton of people that are willing to help him because he told them that they're in real estate investing. So I want you guys to think about that as well. If you're in real estate investing, even if you're starting off, he had 0 deals, he had, minimal experience, and he just went out there and told people, look, this is what I want to do. Who wants to be a part of it? And, that added a ton of value. So he speaks highly of mentorships and why you should have a mentor. I'm just super excited to get into this episode with you all. So make sure to tune in. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Cashflow podcast. Super excited to have Michael Putman on today. He's all the way from Miami today, which is rubbing it in. But how you doing today, Michael?
Good, man. Super excited to be here, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem, man. You're going to add a lot of value. You scaled so fast, and I think the listeners are going to really, take in the steps needed to scale to obviously your level. So why don't we just start about, how'd you got into your first real estate deal and how you got into real estate just in general?
In general, so I started studying real estate at FSU in Tallahassee, and I was about to get my undergrad degree. I felt like 4 classes short for getting my bachelor's in real estate. I couldn't get past those accounting classes, but I was able to finish all the real estate classes. And after that, I started my own business. I got into the paint contracting world, and I still have that. It's been like 5-6 years, and I've been able to develop a team of contractors, like subcontractors, and I got my first property was in 2018. My wife and I bought a 2-bedroom apartment in Gainesville, and we had a painting project that we were gonna do there. It was gonna take a year, so we figured why don't we buy a little apartment, instead of rent. And we found someone that was willing to do seller financing with us. So we put 20% down. And we owned the property for 2 years, and it appreciated. We got it for $100,000 and went up to $130,000 in 2 years. So we were like, all right, this is pretty awesome. A year went by. I wanted to get into multifamily. I just didn't know how to. So I would always listen to podcasts, Bigger Pockets, of course, and read books, and just didn't know how to get into that first deal until I found out about syndication and partnering. And so I was already looking for deals through websites, commercial brokerage websites, and I found the property, and I was pitching deals to people who had money that was that wanted to invest but really didn't have the time to. And at the time I had all the time, and I had the team. So I got into a partnership with my dad, who I had no idea I was going to partner with him. I didn't even pitch it to him. I didn't even think about like partnering with him. He had just overheard me like talking about real estate and talking about like getting into multifamily, and out of nowhere he just brought it up where he's like, "Are you still there, or did I lose you?"
No, okay. You're there. Sorry.
So then he was turning 60, and he had a lot of money in the 401k, and with 401ks, they eventually when you take the money out, there's a big tax hit. So one of the ways to get your money out is to buy real estate. So we partner up. We bought this property in Pensacola. At the time, it was like $875,000, 18 units. Right now, Miami, like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath is like going for $875. So
that's incredible.
Crazy, yeah. Yeah. So the problem with that property, it had 10 vacancies, and the guy that owned it before was like a slumlord. He just never, did anything to improve it. And when we visited the property, we were like a little overwhelmed, because out of the 18, 10 vacancies, and then the other eight tenants were month to month. So, we had our hands full. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So sometimes a lot of people like, going into the property and having, tenants in there while you fix them up. When they move out, you can fix up the unit. That way, you still get paid and you get that income. But, then there's other people that rather have it empty, get it all done with. But I mean, you just unloaded a lot. So I kind of want to unpack it in sections. So First off, you went to big college town, FSU college town, FSU to another college town, Gainesville. Why don't we talk about that seller financing deal? So first off, how'd you find that deal? Like, obviously, was it off market with someone you knew? And then just talk about seller financing as well, because obviously if he's going to he or she going to seller finance the whole thing, they have to own it outright, correct? And then did it transfer into your name, or did they keep it into the seller's name until you sold it?
Yeah, so it was an off-market deal, and the reason why we found it, I had a friend who's a realtor in Gainesville, and we were looking to rent, and then he knew this investor that had, I guess, 300 apartments, and that offers owner financing. So, we literally like went to look at it, and we just loved it, and we told him, yeah, we'll do it. They did, he wanted to check like, my bank statements, he make sure that I was going to be able to make the payments. I introduced myself to him, and he asked for 20% down. It was like 6% interest over 20 years. So it wasn't too bad. We lived in the apartment for like 6 months, and then we realized that the painting project that we were doing was going really slow. So then after about 6 months, we put some tenants in there, and we moved back to Miami. So that was like a learning curve in itself. Yeah. And then as far as the deed, the title was still under his name, but we had the deed. So it doesn't transfer over until it's fully paid off.
Yeah, so the way I got into real estate as well, I did a seller financing deal, duplex, and same thing happened. Deed stayed in the owner's name. I had possession. I could do, what I wanted with it, but until we sold it, wasn't until, that deed transferred. But, I mean, that's a great way for people that are just getting started in the real estate, to get into a property. And, even if it's not 20% down, I mean, the person you purchased it from is, obviously was experienced, had 300 units. If the other person is just a mom and pop owner, that has just a couple properties, they may be willing to do less than that. And then it eliminates the PMI. So that's a good way to get in. Want to talk about, so how was it dealing, or not dealing, but how was it working with family with this apartment building?
So like my wife and I, we just got up and left, we wanted to start something new. It was tough leaving our family back home, but, You know,
But
we were both 29 at the time, so we were ready to make like change it up a little bit. And plus, we were
yeah.
there for work, so
Yeah, for when you purchased that 18 or that apartment complex, you said with your father, right?
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How was that dealing with him, and how did you fall into working with him when you didn't even think of talking to him about it?
yeah. So my dad's a pilot, and he's not like not. I wouldn't consider him a businessman, or he doesn't have any experience with real estate other than like whatever properties that he lived in, and it was it was kind of shocking at first that he wanted to partner with me, but I mean, I can tell that he trusts me, and knew that he had confidence in me because he saw like the type of work that I did with my contracting business, and I was pretty confident with the deal. I knew the area. I did my market research. I mean, the property was like near a golf course. It had like a Publix and Target and Chick-fil-A, Starbucks, and a college nearby. And the rents on other houses and apartments were like $1,000. So it was just a property that hadn't been maintained, and the guy owned it and didn't even try to like raise rents or even repair it. So it was in a good neighborhood, and my relationship with my dad has we haven't gotten in one argument since we've been in business. Everything
That's
has
good.
been, yeah, like everything has been smooth. We all have our roles, like my wife, him and I, and we're always like kind of like on top of it, right? So if there's something, if the tax needs to get paid or the insurance needs to get paid or mortgage or whatever it is, like we handle it pretty quickly because no one wants to drop the ball. Everybody wants to have each other's back, and so.
I feel like open communication kind of eliminates those problems as well. So you guys have probably done a pretty good job at doing that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't recommend going to business with family because it could get complicated. But I guess if you have that type of relationship and everybody's on the same page and the communication's there, then it could be a great source to raise capital, right? So I kind of like overlooked my family and was already going to like wealthy people, but I'm glad that I started with my dad and my wife, and we've been able to grow organically as opposed to like raising capital from other investors, and then it kind of feels like a job, and you kind of feel like you have a boss. And
Yeah. 100%. And, I think this is another learning point as far as, if you don't ask, you don't know. You're never going to find out. So you might as well ask everyone. And in this instance, you didn't even know, and you end up asking, and turned out perfectly. So
yeah,
that's
you got to
awesome.
put it out there in the world. You got to let people know that that this is what you want to do, and you just never know who's listening.
100%. Why don't you go into depth right now about just your portfolio that you have now? Like, what have you grown to right now?
So we're at 72 doors right now. We have an 18 unit in Pensacola, a 22 unit in Valdosta, and a 32 unit in Mobile, Alabama. And we're looking to purchase another deal pretty soon. It's going to be like a larger deal. So I'm hoping to get over 100 to 150 doors within the next couple months. That'd be awesome.
You still have that, first off, that's amazing. Second of all, you still have that construction business as well?
Yeah, so I use it as my earning income here in Miami. We paint like 1 or 2 houses a week, and we'll have like a few commercial like apartment complexes that we'll do once every other month. So it's nice to have, and I built a team also that my painters have been working with for about 5 years now. So they kind of know the deal. Like I literally like kind of like set it up. They do all the hard labor, the painting, and then I just do kind of like the walkthroughs with the owners. So everybody kind of has each other's back there, and my job is to make sure that I always have work for them, and they're happy because they make good money, and I'm happy because I make good money and have to work only a few hours.
Yeah, so it kind of sounds like you systemized everything on this on your business, your painting business, so that you can focus more on real estate investing. So
Yeah.
as far as your real estate investing, what's kind of the team that you put in place for that?
Well, my wife is in charge of like all the reports, organizing all the paperwork. So she communicates with our CPA, our title attorney. I deal kind of like with the property managers and the contractors. And then as far as like the financing and the lending, my dad, he's always on top of the emails. So so we all have our roles in this. I like looking at deals like all day. I go through about 300 deals, scanning them. And I usually just pass on everyone. It's hard to find a good deal now, as opposed to like, I guess you get to a point after a few apartment complexes that it's like you have the funds for capital, or you have the capital funds, but finding the good deal is the hard part, right? So
Yeah, that's the most valuable part too. Finding the deal.
So if you can get that first one to get you rolling, that's the most important one. Like just the first step of buying a property, you're learning so much, right? You're taking action, you're getting your foot through the door, and it's more of a learning experience. And the way that this market's going, the rents are still rising, and you're gonna learn a lot on that first deal for sure.
Yeah, we had someone on, Axel. He, which we talked about before the show, he actually pointed out as well. The first deal is not about the money. First deal is about the experience and learning, and you're gonna do a lot of things wrong, but that's okay. It's a learning point for it. That's why you go to the second, third, fourth deal. That's where you'll make your money. It's just learning how to run your business. So when I know you don't invest in the area. Obviously, you're in Miami. And these properties are, they're further away, maybe a day's drive or whatnot. So how did do you have any suggestions as far as how to find a good real estate agent in that area, and then also property manager?
As far as like brokers, commercial brokers in the area, so if you find a property online, it'll have like a listing agent attached to it, so you can contact them direct. And, if it's your first deal, they're going to kind of know that it's your first deal. But you can also like go to, there's a couple different brokerages that they have like brokers for those specific areas, and you can email them. And as far as property managers, I go on Google and I look at like the reviews, which property management company has a lot of good reviews. Are they like a big corporation, or are they kind of mom and pop? So I look at those things. Is it nearby, or is it like 30 minutes away? So I've always found my property managers to be pretty close by my property, and yeah, I've had an instant with my Valdosta property where I hired a property manager, and then like 2 weeks later, a bigger property management company acquired them. So then I was like, had to settle with those people. I didn't even know who they were. I never even spoke with them. So.
Well, that happens too. Yeah, that's definitely something that you got to account for. But no, that's awesome, man. So talk about. So have you had a mentor, or is it just kind of everything that you've been going off of?
No, I have a mentor for sure, and he definitely accelerated this whole process for me. I didn't seek out for him. I was part of a networking group for my paint contracting business, and we would play basketball every Saturday at one of these guys' house. And it just happened to be one of the people that owned about 300 units. And I was already like pitching multifamily deals to people. And then like I overheard that he had a property in Tennessee, in Jacksonville, and OKC. So I kind of asked him a few questions, and then, he saw that I was interested, and he like genuinely like wanted to give me advice and to guide me and like, help me through this whole process. And everything, I almost bought a property outside of Gainesville, like in this, it's called High Springs. It was a 1920s like fixer-upper, and it was going to be like a seller financing deal, and I was so close to buying it, and he was like, dude, you do not want to get into that deal. You don't want to touch it. It's going to be so much of a headache. And he was totally right. And I was only thinking about like the cosmetics of it, and I didn't really think about all the structural renovations that it was going to take. But he's also guided me through the 18 units. Like he literally, we had a plan, and and it worked, and it was like that proof of concept, right? And after that, he was like, "Yep, exactly how we planned it." And even to today, I ask him. I was texting him this morning. We go back and forth, and just having someone with that wealth of knowledge is going to help you like avoid all these mistakes, right? Because that person already made the mistakes, or already, knows what to say to like a lender or a broker, how to handle different situations. So, I think with the mentor for sure, you're going to accelerate the process, and it can be hard to find a mentor in this multifamily business.
It is. It really is, and it's also hard to find one, at a reasonable price. I would say. Mm-hmm. Obviously, everything's going to be an investment, but I mean, this goes back to what we were just talking about. If you don't talk and speak it into existence, tell people exactly what you're doing, then this would have never happened for you. If you didn't, tell everyone that you were into multifamily investing, you wanted to get some private lenders or hard money lenders, whatever it be, you wanted people to invest with you. You would have never had this connection, which ended up being so valuable to you. Would you agree?
I say it all the time. My mentor has, saved me thousands and made us millions, right? Because if it wasn't for him, maybe I would still be still trying to renovate that single family house 2 years ago, And yeah, like, I don't know. I guess you just never know who's in the multifamily business if you don't talk. I know there's meetups and there's seminars that you can go to, or you can even like reach out to other people through Instagram, and
that's exactly how we met too. So it's all about networking. Your network is your net worth. Love saying that. Probably say a little too much, but anyways, no. Let's go into. Why don't we talk about first off? Can you touch real quick on people that are looking for a mentor right now? What are some things that they could look for in a mentor? Because obviously, like we said, it's hard to find a good one. So is there any advice you can give as far as what kind of to look for?
Well, obviously, anybody that has like multifamily experience that's gone through like the recession in 2008, obviously people who've made mistakes, who failed, they're going to be able to help you out. People that genuinely care, like want you to do well, and I would just like keep networking, message people, like I like to listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to Rod Cleef, and he has a lot of good people on the show. So, even if you don't have a mentor, there's ways to self-educate, and there's books that you can read. And this book right here is called Commercial Real Estate Advice, Encyclopedia by Terry Painter. I mean, that's like, that book goes into like thoroughly like the whole process of multifamily. There's a lot of books out there that kind of general overview of real estate, but this one like kind of deep dives into value adds, repositioning. So if you can't find a mentor, you can still self-educate and teach yourself as much as possible, and obviously action you're going to learn by doing it.
No, I love that, man. I love that. I love exactly what you just said. So you kind of have like a 4-step process to accelerating financial independence, right? Why don't you touch on those real quick?
Yeah, so I talk about like the biggest hurdle that everybody has is cash, right? If I were to do it by myself, I wouldn't have been able to buy an 18 unit. And if I tried saving the money, it probably would have taken me 10, 15 years or maybe more, right, to get to that level. So as far as cash, like, in the beginning, just to get started, just to get your feet wet, find a partner, find someone that you trust, find someone that you're going to get along with, that both parties know their roles, right? So if you don't have cash, maybe you can offer time, you can, find the deal, you can handle the operations, you can deal with the contractors, the property managers. So there's like a lot of value in that. So that's like step one. Step two, like, finding a market, right? So, for me, I live in Miami, and like right now the deals, you can't find a multifamily, apartment complex in Miami for like less than $5 million, right? Everything's super expensive. Just a single family house on average is like $600,000-$700,000.
Jeez.
So, I would say pick a secondary market. If you want to find some value add deals, I like the Sun Belt area, so I like the southeast states. I specifically stay in like the Panhandle area because I went to FSU in Tallahassee, so I like that area a lot. What's the third step? Like mentor, right? So, having someone to lean on, to ask questions, to accelerate the process, and I forgot the fourth step.
Yeah, no, you good. The partnerships. You kind of touched on that in the first one, anyways, with cash. But yeah, so just emphasizing what you're saying. So cash, partners, market, and mentors. 4 ways to accelerate your financial freedom.
Yeah, and a property manager, right? Because you're not going to be able to go back and forth every week, So you want to find a mom and pop property manager that doesn't have like, I don't know, over 500 units, that focuses on multifamily. Like my property manager in Pensacola, I found the property management company, and there was like 4 or 5 property managers. So I went through their bios, and I picked the one that I thought was going to pay the most attention to my property. And yeah, like, just like line of communication, right? Like as long as I'm communicating with her, and like one of the first things I did was I had a meeting in her office, my wife and I, and her and our boss, and like I explained to her like exactly what I wanted to do with this deal, And I was going to tell her how I was going to renovate it, what I want to list it for, what do I expect, and they always are going to kind of like underplay it, and they'll like say, I recommend to list it at, let's say, $850, when maybe you can push it to $1,000. And I always kind of ask for a little bit more and see how the market reacts. Yeah. Because if I settle at whatever they say, then I'll never know how much more I can push it, right? So property management, the line of communication is key. Making sure that they're doing all like the reporting, you're getting all the reporting. You got to be on top of them with like work orders and stuff like that. Yes. I had one property management company that was like, there was like AC repairs every other week, and it was kind of like, all right. So
yeah, no, that's a good point right there. So even though you have a property manager, you're still managing the property manager, and you got to stay on top of that, because like you said, if these expenses keep happening and you're not in the know of it, then that could be money just going out the window for you. So I definitely think that's huge. But yeah, so let's go ahead. So what is the goal for you as far as real estate investing? Obviously, your Instagram, shameless plug right now. It's road to 1,000 units?
Yeah, so it's a road to 1,000 units. That was my goal when I first started. I wanted it to be high, but I still think it's achievable. My whole thing is like capital stacking, right? So sometimes you can refinance a property, get your cash out, and buy another one. Other times you might have to take a step back, right? So if I sell a property, I'm losing the door count, but I'm getting all that equity profit gain that I can use on a huge down payment on a larger property. So I honestly believe I'm going to hit the 1,000 units within the next 5 to 10 years. So I'll have to probably change the handle, but it's just a system, right? Like I'm not like some type of genius or anything like that. It's just something that, I'm not a trailblazer. I'm following like a system that works, right? So, I buy properties that are undervalued where the rents are low. I put $15,000 in the interiors, labor, materials, right? And I change the exterior look. I paint the exterior, new landscape, new lighting, new roof, and I make sure that the property is in a good neighborhood where I can find those tenants that were willing to go, if the current tenants are paying $500, but they're still potential tenants to pay $1,000, that's going to double the value of the property. So
yeah,
it's all system.
Exactly. I think that you made a great point that it's kind of like a snowball. Going downhill, it just gets bigger and bigger. So as you buy property, obviously you're going to be a little slower at first. You get your feet underneath you. You get your properties, then, like you said, capital stacking. You can sell these properties. You can cash out, refi them. You can do a lot of things to leverage them to get into bigger doors. Obviously, you had your 18 unit, but now you said you have a 32 and another apartment complex. So that, capital stacking. And, I would love to go into that deal, while we're on this subject right now of the 18 apartments?
Yeah. So that property was half vacant. We had 10 vacancies, so we were able to renovate 10 units right off the bat, which is good and bad, right? Like, you want a property where there's only a few vacancies, so you have the other units, paying your mortgage and stuff. But since we bought this cash, because we couldn't get a loan on it since it was half vacant, we were able to knock out a lot of units renovation wise, and we renovated the first 3 units, and then I was already taking pictures, right? I was already giving it to my property managers, start marketing it, and we were already getting potential tenants coming by to look at it. So I was like, all right, this works. So let's continue, putting money. So we did the 10 units, we renovated them. The other 8-unit tenants, they were month to month. They were paying $500 on average, $506, $509. And we bumped their rents up to $800, and half of them left, and the other half stayed, which was, the half that stayed was just great, because now we just bumped their rents and we don't have to renovate their units.
Yeah. How'd you find the deal?
Yeah, and the property had some sketchy tenants. We had a drug dealer trying to sell us drugs. We had some. We had a dumpster on site. I found, on a Monday night, my wife and I got back from dinner, and we found one of the tenants dumpster diving.
Oh, jeez.
It was crazy stuff like that. But the property was in an awesome neighborhood. It just people were living
mismanaged.
There. Yeah, mismanaged, right? So we painted all the brick white. Put new roofs.
So it sounded like you did a lot of renovation to this. First off, how'd you find it? And then second off, why don't you just touch real quick on, how when it's a 5-unit or higher, it's based off of the income. The value of the property is based off the income, whereas, 4 and below is comparable. So why don't you touch, first off, how'd you find it? How'd you do the marketing to find it? And then, 5+, how do you add value?
So there's a brokerage company called SVN, and I don't know how I came across them, because at the time I didn't really know any of brokerage. I guess I just Googled it, and I just found their page, and I just started searching their properties that they had, and it was one of the properties that they had listed. And so I found the listing agent, and I contacted her, and next thing you know, we're flying up to Pensacola to do a site visit. And as far as 4 units or less, so you're looking at the value of the property is based on the neighborhood, right? Or based off if all the houses are going up, appreciating, then the property will appreciate, as well, or depreciate, right? But with 5 units or more, it's all income based, right? So you're looking at the NOI. So what's the most important thing about this business is increasing the NOI. So if I can increase the rents and minimize the expenses, or lower the expenses, or keep the expenses stabilized, that NOI is going to skyrocket, right? And I'm always looking at ways to add $10, $20, $50 onto the rent. So one of the ways is a pet fee, right? You're allowed to have pets, but it's going to cost you $50 a month more in rent. Or if you want us to install washer and dryer units inside your apartments, that's going to be $25 more. So our property managers offers some type of insurance program for the tenants. That's another $30. So next thing you know, I had the property listed at $995, and now they're paying $1,100 a month. That skyrockets the value of the property.
Yes, it does.
Right?
Yes, it does. And a lot of people don't understand that if you buy a property where you can't raise rents, I mean, there's two options right there you can do. You just because they're at market rent doesn't mean you can't increase the value of them. You can, one, like you said, do pet rent and charge a fee for that, and two, you can minimize the expenses. I know someone that had a 10-unit apartment complex. It was one water bill, but they separated them. And that there limits, the expenses. Definitely, I want to touch on real quick. So it's a controversy subject, but pets, you allow pets in your rentals?
For sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Have you had any, bad experiences with them?
No, I mean, the only experience that I have with them is that they'll chew up like the baseboards or whatever. But I mean, when the tenants leave, they're not going to get their deposit back, or they walk their dogs around the property and there's like poop on the property and then they have to clean it up. Yeah. So what we're trying to do for Magnolia 32 and Mobile, or 32 unit, I'm actually building like a little dog park, but it's very simple. It's like just like a picket fence, and then with a little like stand in the middle for people can, to clean up after their pets. And that's gonna attract those tenants that have pets, and they're it's an amenity for them, and it helps us out because we can increase the rent. So I love dogs and cats.
100%.
Bring them over here. And I would say do not charge them like a one-time fee or like a big hit in the beginning. Just $25 a month, and that will boost the NOI. And if half of the property happens to have pets, then that's great.
Yeah, 100%. We had Casey Denby on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and he said the same thing. He loves pets. He does, though. He charges a monthly fee, but he does do an upfront non-refundable fee. And he says, he said like he does he said it gets upwards of $275 to $400. Non-refundable.
Yeah, some people charge $500. I'd rather do a lower one and then increase the monthly fee, right?
100%.
And then our property's insured, but with pets, you pay a little bit more on the insurance, but you gotta have it. And I tried to tell the property manager, like dogs, like I think it's like 75 pounds or bigger, are not allowed. So so most of our pets are usually smaller dogs or cats.
Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of renters right now through COVID, they stayed at home during work. They bought pets. So if you don't allow pets, that's cutting the amount of people you can rent to right there, probably by like 60-70%. Because they all have it, and you're just cutting off a big pool of people that cannot. So,
and there's a thing that, like, if the previous owner is paying like the electric, water bill, like the utility bill, with the new tenants, I believe it's called RUBS, and for these new tenants, you can have them pay it. So that's going to minimize the expenses big time, because those utility bills, if you're paying it out of through the property, they add up.
Yeah.
So you want to slowly like start charging it back to the tenants with the new tenants.
Got you. So would that be, you purchase the property, they're paying, the last owner was paying for everything, and then you slowly, what you're trying to say is like you give them back, since it's separately metered, you give them back the electric bill, and then you give them back the water bills and whatnot? Yeah,
so as you're repositioning it, right, the current tenants that are there, you can't do that too. But as you get new tenants, for the vacant units that you renovated, you can change it.
Yeah, so, and that's another way to add value.
For the first few months, you're going to be paying like a pretty high utility bill.
Yeah, but okay. No, that makes perfect sense. So, like, moving forward, obviously the goal is like 1,000 units, right? Mm-hmm. But moving forward, first off, partnerships. Obviously, you did that one with your dad. Did you do the other two as well with your dad or someone else?
Yeah, so just with the family, I'm trying to grow organically. So there's that's another subject. Like, okay, you can grow organically slow, or you can raise capital, right? And you can start raising money. So for me, I mean, I've kind of learned this from my mentor. My mentor had a partner, and they had a fallout, and one side just got impatient. So he just wrote him a check and got him out. And he's kind of growing organically as well. So I'm kind of following his footsteps, and maybe you're only doing one deal a year, but like
if it's 50 units,
deal, A 22 unit deal, 32 unit deal. Next thing you know, I'm like 72 units in. It's only been 2 years.
That's
I'm
insane.
32 years old, so I have a lot of time in this business, and I'm not in a rush.
No, that's insane. You've grown. I mean, you've grown at such a high rate, and honestly, it feels like it's because you started off, with a bigger deal, and because you added that value to that property. Now you're able to, like you said, take all your money out that you put into it. Now you can reassess that, distribute that into a new property, and do the same thing again. Just like you said, burring on a bigger scale, which
and the Pensacola property worked out exactly how I planned. However, the Valdosta property that I bought, it was 22 units. I got it $100,000 per unit, and it was more of a stabilized property. We got a conventional loan on it, 20% with a 5-year balloon. The property, it wasn't like a value add like the Pensacola one. So I was a little bit worried about it. I didn't think it was going to do so well. We just went under contract 13 months later at 3.395 with a $500,000 deposit, which is insane because we didn't do any rent. We only spent $60,000. So this market, because of COVID, or people are just wanting to park their money into stabilized assets, right? So, I'm gonna sell that property, take my profits. It's like $940,000 profit in 13 months. It's like $70K a month, and we literally all we did was fix about 8 AC repairs, and we did 8 units, about 3,000 paint and light, and that's it. So that has been a home run, and I didn't even think that was going to be, such a home run deal.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible, first off. And, going back to the unit thing, obviously you're trying to strive for as many units as you want, but you don't want to buy a bad deal. That's a huge proponent.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, even though you're going from 72 to 50 at that point, units at that point, but you can buy something exponentially larger.
So once I sell it, I'll have $940K profit plus my down payment back. Plus, I made $5,000 cash flow throughout the 13 months, and whatever principal that I pay down. So all that money I can use on a down payment for a larger project. And during this whole time, I've been looking for deals. And what I notice about syndicators now, they look too much about the unit count, and they're starting to buy these assets that just doesn't make any sense to me. So,
yeah, and it's so true. They're buying, and a lot of people may say, "Look, Michael got lucky," but you know what? If you didn't take action, you wouldn't have gotten lucky. That every real estate investor that's successful and has grown has gotten lucky at some point, but it's because they took action. They didn't sit on the sidelines, which I think is huge. And, just the way when you bought it, fixed it up in the market that it's in, that you deserved every bit of that because
it's how you buy it, right? So with Valdosta, the rents were at $615, right? 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. I got those rents up to $995 with only putting $3,000 paint, light, and a little bit of subway tile, right? And so it was by buying a property that's undervalued, right? And you might have to look through 1,000 properties to find that one deal. But it's having the knowledge of finding the patience and the knowledge of finding the right deal, and knowing that I didn't have to over renovate, right? So I could have easily started pouring $20,000 into each unit, but I wouldn't have been able to increase the rents. Now the rents are at $995, so there was still a rent increase. And the best part about those units is that some of the tenants we didn't even have to renovate the units. They just didn't want to leave. They were military tenants, so they had the allowance from the government. So it was just easier for them to stay in the units. So that's always a home run, right? Having a rent increase without having to renovate. It's the best in this business.
I love that point because first off, you got to know your market. Second of all, you got to know how to not over renovate. Like you said, you could have put
Yeah.
20 grand into each unit, but you didn't have to because that's not what the market demanded. So at that point, you're allowed to save that capital. You get people wanting these units, and like you said, the value of it exponentially grew, which is incredible. And now you're reaping the benefits of it, which is awesome. So would you say that finding these deals? Would you say that broker relationships helped a ton, or did anyone like bring you the deals, or was it kind of all you finding them or finding them on these commercial sites?
Okay, so the Pensacola was on market. The Valdosta was on market actually on LoopNet. And like people say, oh, LoopNet, it's like a brokerage website where listings or deals go to die. Not the case. My mentor has bought 126 unit and an 84 unit off LoopNet. So I still look at LoopNet. Right now, I'm building my Rolodex with brokers. I think that's key to have that relationship with brokers in different markets with different companies, because they're going to be able to give you the off-market deals before it hits the market. And what's funny about it is that I had a broker today with my property manager in Mobile driving around looking for, or he was showing a 74 unit and a 100 unit. And my property manager went with me because I want to know if he's able to raise those rents, right? And if he tells me, look, the property's nice, but the neighborhood sucks, it doesn't work, right? Because you can't change the neighborhood. You can change the property, right? So having that relationship with your property manager and the broker is key. If you can have multiple brokers in different cities just funneling you deals, that's the best, because you're always going to have like off-market deals coming through.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And just to preface again, when let's say you get one of the 74 or 100 unit apartment complex, even if you raise rents $50, that's going to raise it exponentially just because of how many units you have, right? Compared to if you just have a 6 unit. When you get into those bigger deals, that's how you add value better. So, that is that kind of your plan going forward, doing the same thing, just adding value, doing the burst strategy, bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. So I have like 2 strategies, right? Repositioning it, whether I go all the way through with it or go halfway through with it and then get it reappraised and refinance, or I buy it at a good price. I renovate it, and I renovate the exterior, renovate a few of the units in the interior, and then I'll just sell it cash out. 1031 exchange it, buy something bigger. So it's like 2 different strategies that you can go with. It just depends. Like, is this a property that you want to hold for a long time, or is this a property that you want to get in and out?
Yeah.
Right. For me, for Valdosta, like I felt like I hit a ceiling as far as the rents. I didn't think I can get the rents up any higher. So I got out, right? And I'd rather put my money into a property where the market where there's a higher ceiling, like Pensacola and Mobile for me. It's just bigger cities. There's a bigger downtown. There's a bigger port. It's population growth. It's just a larger town than Valdosta, right? So, but I'm also looking at other cities. I love secondary markets. I kind of want to get my feet into like the Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas.
Yeah.
So
when you do the repositioning or selling and 1031ing a property, do you look for a higher cash flow in the next property?
So this is gonna sound crazy, but I don't even care about cash flow, honestly.
No. Okay.
Yeah, like for me, I'm all about the value, right? What can I get this property, worth after I renovate it? Obviously cash flow is great, but can I turn this $1 million property into a $3 million property with putting $300,000 into it? So I'm looking at like the equity game, as opposed to like, am I going to make $4,000 a month in cash flow?
Yeah.
Obviously you don't want to get to that break even point where you're paying the mortgage out of pocket, or like you're like, worried about what's going to come in that month.
Yeah.
But my mindset is all about what can I get the rents up to, what can I get this NOI up to, and how much is it going to sell for in about a year.
No, that's
the way
that's awesome, man. Because I mean, there is two ways. It's either you go for cash flow or you go for appreciation. Right now, you're looking to add as much value. I mean, obviously, cash flow, like you said, you don't want to break even and then have the roof need replaced and then you're kind of screwed. You want to be able.
So it's like, are you looking for a property that's stabilized? Like, I'm 32 years old, so I'm trying to gain as much capital as I can to use that as leverage, right? But maybe someone like my dad, who's 62, maybe wants to find something more stabilized that's more like cash flow based, right? So
makes perfect sense.
It just depends on what position you are.
Yep, makes perfect sense. Well, man, Michael, thank you so much. You added so much today, and I learned a lot today too. We're going to work on getting you out now, but first off, where do you find your education?
Dude, I still listen to Bigger Pockets. I think they'll have some guests that I pick, pick some stuff from. I read a lot of books. I just finished Atomic Habits. I'm reading 10X Rule right now. I love my multifamily books, Multifamily Millionaires. I got Millionaire Next Door, and I'm always picking my mentor's brain, like always asking him questions. So I'm constantly just self-educating myself, right? I think that's key every day. Like every day in the morning, I read podcasts, and then I'm looking at deals all day.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. Okay, well, if anyone wants to, reach out to you and offer any value to you, what could be valuable for you in your business right now?
I don't know. I just if you have any questions, you can reach out to me like on Instagram, Road to 1,000 Units. I'm not really like trying to raise money from people, but I'm like here to just answer questions to help out people. And I want to build like a network of people that I can ask questions to. Actually, I was watching Axel, and I reached out to him, and I was like, he taught me a little bit about the seller credit and how to buy a property using seller credit. So that was pretty cool. So I reached out to him, and so I'm just trying to build just a network of people that I can, communicate with, and if they have something they can teach me, that's awesome. If I have something I can teach them.
Yeah. No, I can relate to that because, starting this podcast, like I said, like I did this so that I can learn, speaking to you, to people where I want to be in your position in a few years, so being able to do that. And Patrick McGrath, I believe episode 4 or 5, he told me about the seller credit, and now my wife and I were 2 weeks after he taught us that, we're under contract on a duplex where they're seller financing, the seller financing the down payment, and we're doing a commercial loan. So we got to bring like $6,000 to closing. So it's going to cash flow $850. So it's just having a little small community. I know this is a small podcast now, but having that small community where you can kind of rely on people and ask questions, it's absolutely huge. So this is my excuse to talk to people I want to be like you. So thank you. No,
man, the podcast is awesome, and what you're doing, I wish I was doing it. So that's you're gonna meet so many cool people in this business, and you'll probably see them at seminars. And like this multifamily community, it feels smaller and smaller the longer that I'm in it, right? So it's pretty cool, and maybe we'll meet up one of these days and grab a beer.
Definitely, man. Definitely. And I'll definitely get you back when you change your Instagram handle to Road to 1 million units. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
No, but Michael, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate you being on here, taking the time. I learned a lot, and I really appreciate you, and I respect you for what you're doing. And, I'm super excited to see you in 2022 and crush your goals.
Yeah, man, for sure. Thank you, man. And if you're ever in Miami, hit me up.
I hope I'm in Miami soon. Yes. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right.